Alright guys, Supreme Com here, and today we are going to be taking a look at the Launcher Strike Gundam here. So in terms of this overall unit, we only have 5 parts over here, and we do have 3 EXQ and 2 part trays. So in terms of what we are looking at, so simply we are obviously going to be doing some EXQ testing. So we have something called the beam hack here. So this one pretty much reduce the beam resistance of our enemy by 30%. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to see if I can set up a scenario where I want to test like, alright, how much difference can, let's say, like a raw hit with, let's say, the Igni over here. So I'm not going to use any of the debuffing. And then up next, I'll probably just try straight up with just using this 30% and see if it makes any difference. And at last but not least, I am going to utilize this type of portrait. So we have some portrait that is, debuff skills over here. So this one is pretty much the opposite of, let's say, the buff portrait, the counterpart to it. So I don't know how much of a difference that will make, because in terms of, let's say, me wanting to apply some of these debuff, for example, I might innately have to take up something else, right? So I'm gonna see what kind of stuff that I can kind of play around with and all that, and that should definitely give us a good example of like, all right, are these types of hacks any good, for example? And then up next, we also do have the combat weapon pod. So this one is simply just going to be this portion of it. So you have the Gatling, and then you have the 2 missile here. So these are there. And then in terms of the starting out power right now, we are looking at an A- and D power. And if I recall, even after alteration, we're not looking at anything too hot, for example. Power matter wise, I don't think we're jumping up to like B+, B- whatsoever. I think it is still staying at C power. So I don't know if we will see any difference, but I'll definitely do like a kind of like a damage comparison for you guys, so you guys can kind of get your own. It's more or less like a good way to gauge like, all right, do you guys need to alterate it? And as well as we also do have the grand finale, the Igni over here. So this one I already did alterated. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna buy a completely brand new unalterated level 1, and then we are gonna do a side comparison from a unalterated level 1 EXQ compared to a fully alterated, or fully level 10 alterated, and that will definitely give you guys a good example. But I'm just gonna tell you guys that in terms of the Igni, you will definitely have to alterate it because we are starting out at D power. So before popping into any testing, doing it in, let's say, multi-mission whatsoever, I am gonna quickly take a look at the portrait for you guys and see if there's anything that you really need to kind of max out. Alright, so going over to the storage strike, or the launcher strike, excuse me. In terms of the max out for this one, the highest potential, this one go up to a 69%. So I haven't even alterated yet and even maxed it out. So just looking at base alterated, we're looking at 60%. So I guess I will alterate it for the testing purposes, because we're like gaining roughly about 30%. So definitely want to try that out. And then up next, in terms of this one up here, just want to quickly check the power increase. So yeah, only see power, and then in terms of the magazine size, it's not gonna get an increase. So I don't know, like just looking at it on paper, it looks bad, but I just wonder like, all right, when we test it out in battle, are we gonna see any differences? So we'll definitely try that out later on. And then last but not least, in terms of this one, obviously after alteration, and it's gonna go up to a B power, so definitely a must need. But in terms of, let's say, the torso, is it really something you would need to kind of warm up and all that? This one is actually not too terrible. So this one, in terms of the first condition, that is tied down to when you have, let's say, enemy that are large. So namely if you are facing against any big boss, like those boss multi-mission, since they're quote-unquote large enemies, so you can definitely take benefit of that debuff. So this is the portrait that I'm talking about. This one actually comes a bit. So in terms of this 15%, we're actually applying that 50. So once you activate, let's say, the head EXQ, where is it at? So since this one, in terms of its own category, is called the debuffing category. So once you activate this, for example, that 15% triggers and that onto this one. So instead of looking at a 69%, you're looking at this at a 84%. So it is definitely a very powerful iteration of compared to buff. But in terms of debuffing, I don't think there are that many good ones out there, but there definitely could be a very sneaky way to completely reduce your enemy in terms of power, whatever they got to be doing. So it's not bad overall. So this one I would definitely say could be a very good option, because we do get bosses multi-mission every other week. So if you guys do want to plan something into your build, definitely something you can do. And you also do get some shooting power boosting for your tech or P attribute. So I think that is a very nice combo. So not bad or wrong. Just looking at the lake part, let's see what we're dealing with. So lake part is actually so this one's going to be against a large enemy as well. So if you guys are fighting those boss multi-mission, for example, and you need some more kind of EXP reduced with it, let's say you don't have any good options, right? This one is definitely a very viable way because like I said again, every other 2 weeks you are going to be fighting those boss multi-mission, and they're quote unquote big, right? So you can definitely take advantage of that. In terms of the secondary portrait, it's not necessarily something that you need to alter in as well, but it's definitely something to kind of keep in the back of your mind, like, oh, let's say sometimes when we have those extremely challenging like event, for example, like let's say the Nishi challenge, or even like the challenge from the gorgeous video whatsoever, those tend to utilize these portraits a little bit more just because they tend to have some sort of gimmicks that kind of boost the enemy, let's say defensive line, or sometimes they don't allow you to like outright use the EXQ that deals a lot of damage. Like I believe the other one that we had, the gorgeous challenge, it was like skill hammer pretty much. So you know, on paper you're not supposed to use any EXQ, but if you do apply, let's say, I don't know, 100% EXQ piercing, for example, it might say you only do 25% of EXQ damage, but you can definitely bypass a lot of the defensive line. So it's definitely something good to have. So but I would say you don't need to alterate it, but do kind of max it out just with a CD on the spot right there. So overall, I would definitely say in terms of, you know, the launch rate is pretty much solid. Just because looking at the state of the game right now, we do tend to fight boss multi-mission a little bit more, and then in terms of those, you know, extremely difficulty challenge whatsoever, they come every so on was as well. So that's definitely something to kind of have as your back pocket as well. So up next right now, we should be hopping into some let's say multi-mission and just kind of test these EXQ out. And then up next and after that, we'll be doing some damage comparison for all these EXQ and then trying out that debuffing right there as well. Alright guys, so I slapped this onto 100% cooldown reduction tip build. So for those who are wondering, in terms of my cooldown reduction trait, they are not even like, you know, anything to kind of, you know, best part whatsoever. So we have something that is going to be the Strike Rouge IWSP pack right here. This one here is 20%, it's not bad overall. Up next, we do have the Gob Custom. So I'm purely using this one just because this one is only tied into P attribute. There's not any other additional requirement or condition, so that's why I'm using this one. First portrait, honestly, not really gonna be able to benefit. Yeah, I don't really care. Like, let's say if I'm getting any like power boosting, pair that up with like a CD reduced whatsoever, because like I'm not really trying to deal like the highest amount of damage. So yeah. Up next, we do have the, you know, the timeless Crossbone X1 Kai backpack up here. This one to this day still have not has alteration yet, so I'm like, eventually, hopefully, like one day can we get it, and then it should be great. But other than that, right now, it's just gonna be as a good back sub slot for a, you know, CD build. And up next, we also do have the hand grenade that is gonna be from the Austria right here. This one's gonna be 20% P attribute again. So, and last but not least, we do have this guy right here. So this one is gonna be offering a, you know, another 20%. But you know, in terms of this one, I don't know if I would even recommend you guys to get this 4-star pellet, just because of the fact that falling below 60% could be something that, you know, happens a lot per se. So if that case, if that does happen, for example, you would definitely do have to heal back up before having that 20% proctor. So yeah, that is gonna be it in terms of overall trade. And then some of the other ones are definitely just gonna be some general ones, some power boosting, because I only need 5 slots to kind of fulfill the 100% cooldown right there. So my other 4 slots are simply just gonna be some additional, you know, powerhouse portrait and etc. So without any further ado, let me hop into the multi-mission, and then let's see how these EXQ can do. Alright, so we are in. So I'm actually going to be taking this over to the crew multi-mission up here. So let me activate this over here. So does it just automatically apply to everyone? So, oh yeah, so you guys can see that we have those purple effects just from everyone. So you can do it once again over here. So it's not going to stack right here. But you guys can see, oh, it does not apply. But these one does. Like if I activate them, They should literally apply. Yeah, they work. So okay, yeah, it does actually. So in terms of this one, it's not too bad. Oh, you see that? You can actually make some good split. So this one is like a very reminiscent to, let's say, the dual sorcerer arm. We're using literally to split these kind of ammos right here and get a good, like a 3 kill and stuff. So that's not bad. You can see that we got some grenades and we also do have some of those galleon rounds going on. So yeah, it's not bad overall. But in terms of the recharge, like, per loading, it is actually a little bit slow, I would have to say. So that could be a problem, honestly, in my opinion. Okay, you really have to kind of like toggle, from enemy to enemy to kind of get that going on. But normally, I would just say it's only one enemy per. So don't really expect too much from this. Like, unless you toggle back and forth like that, you're not gonna be getting that split. So all right, let's try this right now. So this is very general. Pulling that backhand from the back right there and just swinging it forward. So in terms of the overall beam, it does have some pretty long duration, I would have to say. Yeah, definitely a very long. Oh, it is not having iframe, so if your enemy does something like that, it is gonna stop you. So definitely something to kind of keep that in mind as well. So, but yeah, I mean overall, I do think this EXQ is quite fun just because you can kind of split it. So that's always, I will have to say, is a good plus in general. So okay, gonna split some of those. Unfortunately, not kill. Since it is unaltered at the moment, so I mean, like, it's not gonna be outputting like crazy, right? Even after alteration, I don't know what to expect because we are only looking at C power at the end. So we'll definitely see. And I am wondering how this one will do at base EX skill level 1. Come on, please stop hitting me. Oh my gosh. Dale, I'm gonna die. I did die. So I mean, like, we pretty much got like a good testing out of it. Just because the crew multi mission, the enemy tend to be a little bit tough. So that's why we just die. So yeah, I think up next I'll be trying out, the damage comparison, the prior to alteration and the after alteration, and just kind of see what kind of digit we can be expecting. And then obviously gonna try that beam resistant lowering and see does it even do any extra damage, for example, after debuffing. So we will be right back. Alright guys, with that being said, that is going to be the EXQ showcase and review for the Launcher Strike Gundam. And there, in terms of the overall EXQ, I am definitely impressed by how well it performs, especially, let's say, the combo weapon pods. Even though we were looking at it from like a D power perspective and then jumping straight to C power, we were able to see some tremendous, damage output differences in a way. And then obviously with the Igni, EXQ level 1 versus that EX skill level 10 max out altered, oh man, we were definitely outputting pretty good. I guess the one note I want to make in terms of the beam pack, it didn't really perform how I wanted to be. Like I had this like a 60%, so I guess it didn't work out like that. You guys can see that we were still doing roughly about, was it 4 million or 400,000 per tick per se. I did actually pack in an extra debuffing trait going on, so I have this. This is under the custom ability. So how this actually proctor is, when I activate my limit break, this right here literally applies to the EXQ actually. So in total I should be packing up to a 80% beam reduction or beam debuffing, but I guess it doesn't really work out as intended in a way, or maybe I'm using it wrong. But overall, in terms of the other two EXQ, they're definitely phenomenal. And then in terms of, let's say, the overall portrait, the only two parts I portrait on the torso and then the leg, I think they can definitely be a good option. If you talk about longevity or just in general, you just want something to have for, say, let's say you just don't have any other good portrait, you just want something that's easy to max out. I think those are definitely not a bad option in a way. But with that being said, that is going to be pretty much it with the Launcher Strike, overall review, EXQ testing, what you may call it. But I'll definitely catch you guys all on the next one.